What's up, you draft nerds? Welcome back to the Draft Hub. Today, we're going to be going through my first round mock draft after week 11 of the 2025 NFL season. Now, of course, in a tradition like every mock draft, this is being recorded during the Sunday Night Football game. So basically, this is the up to date mock draft order minus the Detroit Lions, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Dallas Cowboys, and the Las Vegas Raiders. So this is going to be another installment with no trades. I believe we did trades last week. So I usually try and flip flop. I'll do a week of trades and a week of just the standard actual draft order itself. But this is definitely a doozy. There was a lot of different picks being made, and I went in a lot of different avenues that I don't usually do because, doing this video every single week, you got to explore different avenues. You can't just keep making the same video with the same picks every single week. But before we get into this week 11 mock draft, if you are new here and you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. I'm trying to hit my goal of 1,000 subscribers before the end of 2025. We're at, I think at the time of recording, we're at 859. So that's an unbelievable number that I didn't think I would be at this point. So with your continued support, we could certainly get to 1,000 before the end of 2025. Now, without further delay, let's get into it. The Tennessee Titans coming fresh off of kind of a heartbreaking loss, but a little bit of an encouraging game by Cam Ward. I mean, that is the NFL's best defense that they were going up against statistically in the Houston Texans. He still has no one to throw the football to. The run game is non-existent, and he played really well. I don't think he turned the ball over. I don't know if he fumbled. I know he didn't throw an interception. He got sacked quite a bit. He had 229 passing yards and a game-tying touchdown with about a minute left in the game. There are certainly signs that was probably one of his better, if not his best performance, considering the opponent that they went up against, considering how difficult the opponent they went up against. So a nice little moral victory, I guess, for the Tennessee Titans there, where their franchise quarterback actually looked the part in that game against a very tough defense. But at number one here, I'm going to go with my gut. I'm going to go with the best overall player, I think, in the draft class, and that's going to be Arvell Reese. I just think this makes a lot of sense because Arvell Reese is just a Swiss Army knife that could kind of take care of everything that the Tennessee Titans need from the linebacker position. You need a pass rusher. He's got that. He run defender, he can do that very, very well. Coverage, he's very good in that as well. He's a very well versed player that I think I know a lot of people don't like to throw the generational tag around a lot, and there are three players in this draft class that I think are borderline generational, some more than others. I think Arvell Reese is more of that generational guy. I saw someone say that Arvell Reese's pro comparison is Thanos, and that actually kind of made me actually sit down and laugh because he's just so strong. Probably pound for pound the strongest player in the draft class. And it definitely shows on the football field. The guy is unbelievable. He's a difference maker from day one. So I think Arvell Reese makes the most sense here. Number two, you have the New York Giants. And I think the New York Giants, every single week, I either go one of two things. I have never even looked at the defensive. That's not true. I've looked at it, but I've never even drafted a defensive player for the New York Giants here. And they're sitting here at number two. And really, I don't think any other position kind of really makes sense. I know that the Giants are kind of in desperate need of another wide receiver. Two, with some of the other players that are on the board, I'm not really comfortable with taking a receiver like a Jordan Tyson or a Carnell Tate at number two, even though I think those guys both are top 10 players. Two is a little too rich for my blood here. Those are reserved for me for generational players, edge rushers, offensive tackles, quarterbacks, stuff like that. And there is a generational player that is still on the board here at number two, and it is a position of need for the New York Giants. Caleb Downs is sitting here at number two, and I feel like this is just a really good scenario for both teams because Caleb Downs could kind of play any type of position that the Giants need him to play because God knows that they need some secondary help. I know that he can play on the boundary. I don't think he will at the NFL level. Make no mistake about it. I don't think that college kind of appreciates and utilizes the safety like NFL teams do. I don't even think we're scratching the surface of what Caleb Downs can do as a player. And that's a really exciting prospect to me. And putting him in a defense like this with a lot of exciting players like a Dexter Lawrence and Abdul Carter or Brian Burns, guys like that, Bobby Okereke, if you still want to consider him exciting at this point in his career, that's a really big thing. And I think that a Caleb Downs, adding him to a Deontay Banks, a Andrew Phillips, Paulson Adebo. I think that's a huge addition for this team that definitely has a leaky secondary. So I'm going to take Caleb Downs here at number 2. So kind of unconventional. You never really see a linebacker and a safety go 1 and 2 in the draft, but this is a little bit of an unconventional draft class. So, if the players are there, I'm going to take them at 3. You have the Cleveland Browns here. And if the game against the Baltimore Ravens wasn't the most apparent thing that you've ever seen, that the Cleveland Browns desperately need a franchise quarterback. I mean, you know, Dylan Gabriel got taken out of the game. He wasn't playing great. Shedeur Sanders came in his NFL debut, looked awful, to be quite honest with you. I think he did throw a touchdown pass in there, though, but he did look awful. And the defense played out of their mind. They held Lamar Jackson to probably one of Lamar Jackson's worst ever games as a pro. Myles Garrett had 3 sacks. I mean, first off, can I just say off the rip that Myles Garrett is the most athletic. Not only is he the most athletic player I've ever seen play in an NFL game, he's probably the most athletic athlete I've ever seen. I mean, considering his muscle to just mass ratio, how fast he moves, how athletic he is. I mean, the guy was built in a lab. I'm convinced that he was literally genetically modified in a lab. I can't say enough good things about Myles Garrett. I really can't, honestly. And when it's all said and done, I honestly think he'll be considered a top 5, maybe even a top 3 pass rusher of all time in NFL history. And I know that's crazy to say, but the guy is an insane football player. Getting back to it, I think the Cleveland Browns need a franchise quarterback. Now, depending on who you talk about, it's a 1A, 1B scenario between Ty Simpson and Fernando Mendoza. I think Mendoza kind of fits the Cleveland Browns a little bit better than Simpson. I think Simpson kind of needs to fall into a scenario that, how should I put this, kind of has better skill. No, not skill, because the Browns definitely don't have better skill position players. I think Ty Simpson needs to fall into a place that has a better offensive line and will be willing to let him work through his obvious shortcomings in a short starting career at Alabama. That's the most diplomatic way that I could put it. Fernando Mendoza, I think, makes a lot of sense. He's probably going to win the Heisman. I think it should be either Jacob Rodriguez or Ahmad Hardy winning the Heisman. That's just me. I even think Skylar Bell should get some Heisman votes from UConn as well. I think it's a really weird year for the Heisman, but yeah, I think Fernando Mendoza is going to wind up winning the Heisman, and I think he's probably your safest bet as a quarterback prospect in this draft class. At 4, you have the Saints. I'm going to take potentially the best overall player in the draft class in Ruben Bain Jr. I think he's the best edge rusher. I think he's the most complete. I shouldn't say he's the best edge rusher. I do think there are some players that get after the quarterback a little bit better than he does, but I think he is the most well-rounded edge rusher, and that's exactly what the Saints team needs. I truly don't think at number 4 here, I'm kind of off the board with a quarterback right now. I want to see what Tyler Shuck can do for the remainder of the season. They drafted him with a top 40 pick. The same GM and head coach are going to be drafting this year. I don't think that they would waste the top 40 pick and then draft someone like a Ty Simpson here. I don't really know how much better a Ty Simpson would be than a Tyler Shuck in this offense, especially since Shuck really showed out against the Carolina Panthers and kind of showed us in his second career start how much growth from the first one to the second one he possessed. So I'm going to take Ruben Bain Jr. here at number 4 to kind of kickstart that defensive rebuild for the New Orleans Saints that I think they've been teasing for quite a few years at this point. At 5, I played around with the idea of the Jets trading down last week, and some people loved it, some people hated it. And at this point, since we're staying pat, I think that drafting a quarterback makes sense. I think drafting Ty Simpson here at number 5 would make sense for the New York Jets. Again, kind of like what I said, I think offensive line-wise, the Jets have way more stability than the Cleveland Browns. I think honestly, in terms of if they extend Breece Hall, I think the Jets are in a little bit of a better position than the Browns to take on uh, more of a high ceiling, more potential quarterback like Ty Simpson, because they have the offensive line in place. Granted, they'll probably need a guard at some point in the NFL draft or the offseason. But other than that, their bookend tackles are in place. Their center is in place. They have a lot of good pieces of the offensive line. So I do think, and they have Garrett Wilson. They have Mason Taylor, who's shown a lot of promise. They have an inspiring backfield. I think getting someone like Ty Simpson would make a lot of sense here. Again, I think this kind of environment would allow him to work through those rookie mistakes and the rookie growing pains that you're going to see. Whereas Cleveland, I don't think it would be as forgiving as an environment. And I'm not talking about fans, I'm just talking about on the field practices. At 6, you have the Las Vegas Raiders here, and I'm going to go in a way different approach than I usually do. Apparently, the Las Vegas Raiders fans hate their offensive line. They hate DJ Glaze at right tackle, and honestly, watching him play right tackle, I don't really blame them. So we're going to take a right tackle here. And we're going to take Francis Mauigoa. I think Mauigoa is the best pure right tackle in this draft class, and Colton Miller is a stud on the left side. They have Jackson Powers Johnson. I believe they still have Dylan Parham, who's okay for the most part. And if you slide Glaze back into play guard, or they have Caleb Rogers, they have a couple different players that they could mix and match on the offensive line. They have that tackle that could play guard from William and Mary. God, I'm forgetting his name, unfortunately. Oh, Charles Grant. There you go. Charles Grant from last year as well. But I think they really need that stud right tackle piece. And, on a team that has so many different needs along so many different facets of the roster, I really truly think that winning in football starts and ends with trench play still to this day. You need a good offensive line. You need a good defensive line. The defensive line is good enough right now. I think the offensive line definitely needs to be improved upon. At 7, you have the Washington Commanders. This is pretty easy for me. I mean, the Commanders are a mess, but this is a scenario for the Commanders that could really benefit them in the long run. If you keep Jaden Daniels out for the season, they're 3. What are they? 3-8 now. They lost to Miami. Yes, they're 3-8 at this point. The season is done, especially with the way that the NFC is rolling right now. The season is done. It's a lost season. You made the NFC Championship game last year. You have your franchise quarterback in place. You have an okay defense. It's not great. The secondary is pretty leaky, but you can get to the quarterback at a decent rate considering the pass rushers that they have. I think you need to take advantage of taking the best overall player that fits your needs, where you probably shouldn't be drafting number 7. I thought the Commanders were going to regress this season. I didn't think they were going to regress to being the number 7 overall pick. And injuries are a big part of it as well, and just some misfortunes as well. But I'm going to get Jordan Tyson here. I think this would be an amazing get. You already have Terry McLaurin, who's now locked down for the next 3+ seasons at an exorbitant amount of money. I think that contract's really going to turn around and bite the Commanders in the ass when it's all said and done. But Deebo Samuel's a free agent. I'm not paying $30 million to 2 different receivers, especially on the wrong side of 30 for both of them. And Noah Brown is on the wrong side of 30 too. Jalen Lane looks like a pretty decent number 3 overall wide receiver. You still have Luke McCaffrey. I think you need someone that could. I think at this point in Terry's career, especially if you get someone like Jordan Tyson, he's probably going to be your number 2 option. So I think it would make a lot of sense to get someone like Jordan Tyson, have him build that rapport with Jaden Daniels for years and years to come. So we're going to take him at number 7 here. At 8, the Rams are playing with house money. They have a top 10 pick from the Atlanta Falcons, and they are probably the team to beat in the NFC. Who's got a better long-term than the Rams right now? They are truly set up for success. For a team that didn't have a first-round pick for 6 years, they are just really, really set up to succeed. I'm going to take Mansour Delaney here. I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, they picked off Sam Darnold 4 times, so maybe they don't even need a long-term corner piece, but they definitely do. Kobe Durant is good, more of a number 2. I don't really think he's going to be your number 1. Darius Williams is on the wrong side of 30. Also, I believe he's a free agent after this year. You need someone that's going to take over as that alpha number 1 corner, and I don't think there's been anyone better in the FBS this year than Mansour Delaney. For a disaster season for LSU, he has been really the lone bright spot on their defensive side, and he's been a borderline unbelievable in man, in zone. He's been fantastic. I think this would just be. You want to talk about taking advantage of a place that you shouldn't be in the draft order when we were talking about the Commanders? I'm talking about that with the Rams. The Rams are getting a potential top 10 player in the class, and they're, 8-2 right now? Unbelievable stuff from Les Snead, Sean McVay, and company. We're going to take Mansour Delaney here at number 8. And I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility to take it. I think this cornerback class is really, really good. I think there's going to be a ton of corners taken between 10 and 40. I don't know if there's a true top, before a top 10 corner, inside the top 10, but I think if there is one, it's Mansour Delaney for sure. At 9, I'm going to go in a little different direction. I'm usually all for protecting Joe Burrow long-term. Orlando Brown is a player that I think could definitely be improved upon on the offensive line for the Cincinnati Bengals. I usually go with a left tackle. I usually go with a Caden Proctor or something like that. The defense, I hate the fact that I'm going to select an edge rusher here when they selected Shamar Stewart, when they selected Miles Murphy a couple years ago. I'm not a big fan of this, but I think it's really needed considering Trey Hendrickson is going to be a free agent, and that is your bread and butter for your pass rush. If you're the Cincinnati Bengals, you don't have really anything else other than that. You need to get someone that can get after the quarterback. I'm not taking a project. I'm taking someone that is proven that can get to the quarterback, and I'm taking David Bailey. I know this might be a little high for some of you guys to take David Bailey inside the top 10, but in terms of getting after the quarterback and bringing down the quarterback, there's few, if any, that are better than him in the FBS this season. I think it's 6'3", 250 pounds. That affords him enough speed and enough flexibility at the NFL level to be able to truly succeed on this Bengals front seven. At 10, you have the Arizona Cardinals here. Again, another another team that I'm going to go in a different position with is usually either a linebacker, depending on who falls, a defensive lineman, or a wide receiver here. I'm going to go with the offensive line. I do think they need a long-term right tackle. And if Spencer Fano is sitting here at number 10 and the Arizona Cardinals have the number 10 overall pick, they have Paris Johnson Jr. Anchoring down the left side for sure long-term. Spencer Fano would be an unbelievable addition to this roster as your right tackle of the future. I think it makes a lot of sense. It also depends on what happens with Kyler Murray. It depends on what happens, with Jonathan Gannon, with just everything with Monty Osiford. What is going to happen to this front office? I don't know what they're going to do with Kyler Murray. So right now, I'm picking with the idea that Kyler Murray is still going to get one more chance on this team, just because the draft class maybe isn't as strong. So we're going to go with Spencer Fano. We're going to shore up the offensive line. At number 11, you have the Miami Dolphins here. We're going to go with Carnell Tate. I think it makes a lot of sense here. Again, this is another team that we just kind of don't know what the future holds. We don't know. We know that Mike McDaniel is basically gone. Chris Greer has already been gone. That GM spot is going to be a hot commodity, let me tell you, because there are certain pieces that the Miami Dolphins have in place that are really good. Patrick Paul looks like he's taking he turned a corner, that he's going to be a long-term left tackle for them. That's really good to have. That's a building block. Devon Achane, Jalen Waddle. I still think Tua Tagovailoa is not the issue. I know that usually teams that bring in new regimes usually want to bring in their own type of quarterback, but for right now, if I can get a Carnell Tate to add to a Jalen Waddle, a Malik Washington, with a Devon Achane, I think that's really, really good for basically any offense in the NFL. So we're going to take Carnell Tate there. It's just a team that really needs a lot of help everywhere. Corner could have been cool here, but I'm not going to pass up on adding a Carnell Tate to the Miami Dolphins overall offense. At 12, you have the Dallas Cowboys. This is usually a spot. I mean, Peter Woods would be awesome here at number 12, but after trading for Quinnen Williams, I don't really think that pick makes a whole lot of sense. So I'm going to go shore up the linebacker position. You have Sonny Styles is sitting here, and I'm going to take him. I think he's a top 10 player in the class. I think that it's a necessary move after Jack Sanborn's a free agent. Damone Clark is a free agent. We don't know what's going on long-term with Demarion Overshown. Anyone is better than Kenneth Murray at this point. I think that linebacker is a huge need for the Dallas Cowboys, and they get the best of the rest. And honestly, he's a 1B. Arvell Reese is just such a good player that he kind of overshadows his battery mate, Sonny Styles, but he is just as good as Arvell Reese. He's not as good of a pass rusher as Reese is, but coverage-wise, he's exceptional as well. Former safety as well, if you guys don't remember. At 13, I usually take Jeremiah Love here for the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going to take Peter Woods. I think long-term, there's a couple stop gaps that the Minnesota Vikings have on the defensive line. I do think they really need to get better pressure on the interior, and I think someone like Peter Woods long-term would be an unbelievable play for a Brian Flores-led defense. So we're going to take Peter Woods here at number 13 for the Minnesota Vikings, pardon me. At 14, you have the Baltimore Ravens here, and I'm going to take Keldrick Falk. We're going to get a long-term edge rusher here to replace a Kyle Van Noy. They obviously already traded. Who the heck did they trade to? They traded David Ojabo, so it looks like they're kind of clearing out to make space. Mike Green hasn't really worked out so far, but yeah, it's still a young player who's in his first year. There's always time to develop, but it kind of seems eerily similar to the David Ojabo thing, where they drafted him in the second round because he tore his ACL at the combine, and they were kind of hoping that he would be as influential as he was with Aiden Hutchinson, and it just hasn't really materialized up until this point. And obviously, It never will because he's on the Chargers as we speak. But yeah, we're going to take Keldrick Falk here to be that long term pass rusher. Great run defender as well. So I think it makes a lot of sense. He's a very well rounded edge rusher. I need to see a little bit more from him as a pass rush specialist, but as an edge rusher overall, he's a really, really awesome player. 6'6, 285, very, very athletic. At 15, you have the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, this is where we're going to take Jeremiah Love here. This just makes a ton of sense. Week in and week out, the Kansas City Chiefs just have no running game whatsoever. Kareem Hunt actually has been running okay lately. Rashad Smith looks like a player that they like quite a bit, is more of a change of pace back. Isaiah Pacheco is as good as gone, in my opinion, at this point. I think it's time to get fresh. It's time to get an absolute dynamic runner like Jeremiah Love in there. That would honestly kind of make the Kansas City Chiefs my favorite again for the AFC, to be quite honest with you. If they were going to get a running back of Jeremiah Love's potential, I think that immediately balances out their offense tenfold. At 16, you have the Houston Texans here. Again, another team that I usually go with either Jeremiah Love or if he's there, and I go with an offensive tackle. I'm going to go to the defensive line this time. I think the defensive line long term needs an upgrade. I know that D'Amico Ryans likes fast, disruptive, athletic defensive linemen, and there's a player that is certainly making a name for himself the last few weeks and who has just been a very solid player overall in his collegiate career, and that's Christian Miller. He's been fantastic. If you guys watched that Georgia-Texas game, he was all over your TV screen. I don't know if you didn't see him there. I don't know if you weren't watching, but he was sensational, really nothing short of sensational for Georgia in that game. Disruptive. He does things that aren't going to show up on the box score. You're going to look at the box score and you're going to be like, oh, Christian Miller had, 2 tackles and 1 tackle for a loss. Wow, how great is that? But you don't see how disruptive he is on a snap by snap basis. And he really dominated that game. And that's kind of more of the same. It's what he's been doing his entire career at Georgia. And I think it's going to pay off in a big way. This is a weak interior defensive line class, but there are a few studs at the top, like a Peter Woods, like a Caden McDonald, like an Amari Washington, and like a Christian Miller. So at 17, you have the Carolina Panthers. Is it possible for the Carolina Panthers to draft a wide receiver in the first round 3 years in a row? You bet your sweet bippy it is, because that's what we're going to do here. They took Xavier Legette in 2024. Hasn't really materialized. He's like a really nice wide receiver 3. That's what it feels like he is at this point in his career. Ted McMillan looks fantastic. That's your number 1 wide receiver. You need something different on the offense. And Mekhi Lemon brings a certain fold to the offense that I just can't explain, would open up this offense like crazy for Bryce Young. Hey, don't look now. Bryce Young is already obviously having his best season of his career, but he doesn't really look that bad. Yeah, he's got spurts of the old Bryce Young here and there, but listen, I know that he just dropped like 450 passing yards on the Atlanta Falcons, but that's the confidence and the downfield accuracy that I want to see, that I've been longing to see for now almost 3 years for Bryce Young. And if this is the corner that he's going to turn, if we're going to see more of this Bryce Young, then it's time to put a couple more pieces around him. It looks like if they re-sign Rico Dowell, they have Rico Dowell and Chuba Hubbard. That's really nice. They still have Jonathan Brooks. Don't forget about him. Legette could be a really nice 3. You have Tet, who's obviously going to be your wide receiver 1. Yeah, bring in Mekhi Lemon to kind of add another fold to that offense that they just don't have right now. At 18, you have the San Francisco 49ers. I'm going to add a defensive lineman. I think I've done that the last few weeks. And I'm going to add Caden McDonald here. This is just, if we're buying into the Bob Saleh 9-man defensive line rotation, you're going to want fast, athletic, disruptive defensive linemen that will stay fresh. And that's what Caden McDonald does. Now, you could argue that Caden McDonald is just a product of his surroundings, because he hasn't nearly made an impact in his career until really this year. And it just so happens that the Ohio State defense is like the best defense I've ever seen in my entire life. Be that as it may, I do love what I see from McDonald on tape anyway, regardless of if you think that he's a product of his surroundings or not. Disruptive, really strong. 6'3", 330, has a crazy low, dense center of gravity that he really uses. He really wins the leverage game, kind of snap in and snap out. And, the sacks aren't going to really be there. He's going to be more of that run-stuffing, disruptive defensive tackle, but I feel like that's what the San Francisco 49ers kind of need right now. And I think that a Bob Saleh is really going to love a player like this. We're going to take Caden McDonald at 18. At 19, you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going to buy into it. I haven't taken a tight end in the first round for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at all. And Kenyon Sadiq keeps falling. And I do think Kenyon Sadiq is a first round player. I just don't see where else he fits. Either Kansas City or Tampa Bay are the only two teams. Maybe Denver, but I can't see Kenyon Sadiq getting to 32. And that's where we're going to take Kenyon Sadiq here. Just Kate Otton's a free agent. Ko Kieft is a free agent. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers need a more threatening tight end. I think Cade Otton is fine as as a tight end too. He just doesn't really do it for me like a Kenyon Sadiq could do, where he's got that long, athletic, huge catch radius, and he could move too. And he's also a great blocker. So I think Kenyon Sadiq makes a lot of sense here at number 19. At 20, you have the Cleveland Browns here. We already added air quarterback of the future. I'm not totally in love with the fit of the wide receivers that are available here. I think Denzel Boston would be absolutely fine here. Same thing with Casey Concepcion as well. Chris Brazzell II, obviously, is really, really good. I think the offensive line kind of needs to take precedent here, especially after getting a quarterback of the future. And Caden Proctor is still here at number 20, and we're going to take him. Just a player that has completely transformed his draft stock over this year. I was not buying in on the Caden Proctor hype at all before this year. And really, after the first 3 games, I was like, this is what you call a top 10 talent. And then he really turned a corner and has been exceptional really since week 4. And I think he's well worthy of his size and his athletic ability. He's well worthy of a first round pick here and a potential rebuild of the offensive line for the Cleveland Browns. At 21, you have the Pittsburgh Steelers here. A multitude of different ways you can go. A lot of the wide receivers that I like for Pittsburgh are gone at this point. I'm not going to overdraft for a wide receiver here. I don't really think Casey Concepcion makes a lot of sense in this offense. Maybe he does, but I think he is just a jacked up version of whatever Calvin Austin does for the Pittsburgh Steelers at this point. I don't really see a true wide receiver 2 here. Chris Bell would probably be my pick, but I'm going to hold off on that. I'm going to, and I know that the Pittsburgh Steelers just put in a really, really strong defensive effort forward against the Cincinnati Bengals, but that's not, one game isn't going to stop me here from upgrading to the secondary. There's a player that I mocked once to the Pittsburgh Steelers in the first round, and I really love it. And I love the Colton Hood fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 21. I think you're getting an insane value. You're getting someone that could really be, I know Joey Porter Jr. is the heart and soul of the Pittsburgh Steelers apparently, but Colton Hood could legitimately be that number 1 corner from day one. He's an exceptional player, really good in zone, really good in man. Football IQ is off the charts. Ball recognition, ball production, really, really strong. He's had a phenomenal season for Tennessee. In a season where we thought that Jermod McCoy was going to kind of take over and be that number 1 corner, in the draft class, Colton Hood has I know Jermod McCoy has missed the whole season so far with that ACL injury from last year, but Colton Hood is a fantastic player, and I think he'd fit perfectly in Pittsburgh. You could argue that left tackle would make a lot of sense here, but there's really no left tackle that I'm kind of willing to take here at 22 or 21 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't really think Caleb Lomu is the best fit for what the Pittsburgh Steelers are trying to do offensively, and that's kind of where my head is at here. At 22, I don't know what the hell happened to the Los Angeles Chargers on Sunday. We're just going to blow past that like that wasn't Justin Herbert's worst performance of his career. I think it goes back to the offensive line. Ola Awane is the player that I'm going to take here. It's a player that I've taken for the last couple weeks. It just fits so well for the Chargers here. It really does. I don't think Awane is a player that's going to reduce down and play center, but I think at this point Zion Johnson is kind of whatever. He's upgradable. The interior, Mekhi Becton really hasn't worked out for the Chargers either at this point. Maybe Mekhi Becton could be the first ever 6'8", 360-pound center. Who knows? But I think Awane is far and away the best interior offensive lineman in the draft class, in a very, very weak interior offensive line draft class, in my opinion. I don't think this is a strong interior class at all, but there are a couple pieces that I'd be willing to take in the first round here, and Awane is definitely one of those players. Immovable force against pass rushes, and in pass protection, he's unbelievable. And that's really what I'm looking for here in a guard for Justin Herbert. So we're going to take Ola Awane here at number 22. At 23 with their second first-round pick, the Dallas Cowboys here, I'm going to take Cassius Howell. I just need to do it. I just feel like, doesn't Howell just seem like a Dallas Cowboy at this point? I don't know. I feel like he's a player that Jerry Jones would just be absolutely infatuated with in the pre-draft process. They already upgraded their defense like crazy with Sonny Styles. We know that Jerry Jones loves his first round linebackers. And we're going to get Cassius Howell too here. Again, one of the best pure pass rushers in the entire FBS. He's not someone that's going to be very proficient against the run, but I don't really think, especially with a Quinnen Williams already on a Kenny Clark under defensive line, I don't really think we're going to ask a Cassius Howell to be, a run stopping or a set the edge type of edge rusher. Sam Williams could be a really nice rotational guy. Donovan Ezriaco is kind of really coming into his own from the second round in the 2025 draft. So Cassius Howell, I think, makes a lot of sense for the Dallas Cowboys here at 23. At 24, you have the Detroit Lions here, and it's no secret that secondary help is definitely needed for this team. I think Avion Terrell would make a lot of sense because if they want to keep DJ Reed on the inside, Avion Terrell could take over on the boundary. If they want to keep DJ Reed on the boundary or Terrion Arnold on the boundary, you could put Avion Terrell in the slot. He offers that really great inside outside versatility, very strong tackler, good blitzer for a corner as well. He's a player that I think Dan Campbell would really appreciate on his defense, and he seems like a lion. He's got that lion mentality, and I think he'd make a lot of sense for this secondary that's kind of been a little bit leakier than you would like for the Detroit Lions. Really, that Washington Commanders game kind of opened up my eyes to how leaky that secondary can be. I know, they were up by so much. It is what it is, but that's where you do see a lot of things that maybe you don't want to see from your defense. At 25, you have the Chicago Bears at 7-3. Look at the job that Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams have done. They have eked out some gutty victories so far this year. And I love what the Chicago Bears have been doing. It's time to get freaky on the, I don't know why I said that. It's time to get freaky on the offensive line, I guess. We're going to take Caleb Lomu here. I think this pick makes a lot of sense. Braxton Jones is still on IR. I honestly couldn't even tell you who their left tackle is right now. But whoever it is, I'm pretty sure that Caleb Williams was pressured on like 50% of his dropbacks against the Minnesota Vikings. That is not sustainable, my friends. If you want a athletic, strong, fast tackle, that's where you're getting in Caleb Lomu. That's really what you're getting from Lomu or Spencer Fano, either way. It's just the way that the Utah Utes play their offensive system, but I think Lomu would fit absolutely perfectly for what Ben Johnson's trying to do. Don't forget, long-term, you still have Ozzie Trapilo as a swing tackle too. That's another really long, lanky, athletic offensive tackle. I kind of like what the Chicago Bears are cooking. They just got to figure it out on the offensive line. I think Lomu would help them out kind of tenfold in that area. At 26, you have the Buffalo Bills here, and if you watch that game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they really need a difference-making wide receiver. Khalil Shakir is not as impactful this year as he was last year. Keon Coleman is going to be a really nice number 2 at best, I'm convinced. Josh Palmer, they paid him for nothing, I'm concerned. Tyrell Shavers is leading your team in receptions or yards, rather. I mean, you need to get Josh Allen, a true number 1. I think Denzel Boston would be just an exceptional player. You could argue that Denzel Boston and Keon Coleman are the same receiver frame-wise, but Boston brings a ton of natural separation. He brings speed, contested catchability down the field. They're vastly different receivers, especially if you watch their games, vastly different receivers. I think Denzel Boston is extremely complete, and I think that there's some prospect fatigue on him because I think we're all forgetting how good he really is, and Boston's exceptional. I think he'd be an instant number 1 target for Josh Allen here. At 27, you have the Seattle Seahawks here. I'm going to go with the interior of the offensive line. It really needs an upgrade. There's another player. I did say before that there is a player that I think would be worthy of a first-round pick, especially off of what we've seen this year. Emmanuel Pregnon is that player for me. I mean, just exceptional in pass protection, run blocking. He's been awesome as well. He's just a player that I don't know if maybe he has succeeded off of the way that Dan Lanning is running that Oregon offense, but be that as it may, he's super powerful, super athletic. He finishes blocks like crazy. I mean, just an exceptional finisher of blocking as well. He really likes to drive his opponents into the ground. He's got that mean, nasty type of Seattle Seahawks mug on him. And I like this fit a lot for the Seattle Seahawks. I don't think that he'll wind up playing center. He's going to really fill in nicely. I believe Gray Zabel is a right guard. Someone correct me on that if I'm wrong. I know obviously he plays either guard position. I don't remember off the top of my head, but Pregnon is going to be the player that's going to take that other guard position. You have my New York Jets again here at number 28. We got our quarterback of the future, and it's no secret, even if Justin Fields is throwing the football, there's nothing to help him. I know that Justin Fields is a bad thrower of the football, but he's throwing to Adonai Mitchell and John Mechie. I mean, what do you really want the guy to do? We need more weapons. When healthy, I think the Jets, Adonai Mitchell is a nice addition. So is John Mechie. If you can get a legitimate wide receiver 2 in there and have those guys fight for your wide receiver 3, and when Garrett Wilson comes back healthy, you're kind of cooking with gas. I kind of love the contrast that Chris Bell offers to this offense that then Garrett Wilson does. Now, mind you, Garrett Wilson, 6 foot, 190 pounds. He's more of that gadgety type of receiver. He's going to win with his jukes and his quick twitches. He's not someone that I don't think could just straight up run past a defender like a Chris Bell can. Chris Bell, 6'2", 228 pounds. He's big, he's fast, he's physical at the catch point. And that's really what you don't get from Garrett Wilson. I think for an offense to be successful, you need a contrasting receiver group. And the Jets really just don't have that. John Mechie, Adonai Mitchell, and Garrett Wilson are kind of all the same wide receivers right now. They don't really have that contrasting number 2 wide receiver. And I think Bell is well worthy of a first-round pick, and I think he'd be a great addition to this New York Jets offense. At 29, you have the Philadelphia Eagles here. Again, with secondary help, I think Chris Johnson is a player that Vic Fangio would absolutely love. The versatility that he brings, the man coverage, the zone coverage, the overall football IQ, the tackling ability. He's a corner that in his collegiate career only has a 4.0% missed tackle rate. That is like top notch for, especially since he's like 5'11", 195 pounds. He's not a big player by any stretch of the imagination. Really, really great player. He's not the most athletic. He's athletic enough, and he's got good enough speed. He's not a burner. He's not incredibly athletic, but his football IQ, his overall smarts on the football field, and his zone and man coverage ability, his ball production as well. He's an exceptional player that I think would kind of fit in this Philadelphia defense beautifully at this point. At 30, you have the New England Patriots, and I know it seems cliche to draft edge rusher, but if TJ Parker is sitting here at 30, listen, I'll be quite honest with you guys. I'm not the biggest fan of TJ Parker. I think he's a little bit overrated as a prospect. I like what he brings to the table as a back end of the first round guy. A lot of potential, good run defender, brings enough as a pass rusher. I don't see him as a top 15 or top 20 guy. At 30, that's a different story. If you can land a TJ Parker for this New England Patriots defense at 30, I think that makes a lot of sense. I love Romello Height, but I'm going to take TJ Parker as a more well-rounded edge rusher, and that's what we're going to do for the New England Patriots here at 30. At 31, you have the Los Angeles Rams, and we already established we took a cornerback 1 for the future. We're going to replace Rob Havenstein on the right side of the offensive line with Gennings Dunker. Again, another player that could probably reduce to the inside if necessary at the NFL level. 6'5", 315 pounds, big, mean, nasty, red mullet, red mustache, loves to put people into the ground. And I think he's an incredibly athletic upgrade over Havenstein at this point. And that's kind of what you need. If Matthew Stafford's going to continue playing football, you're going to need to you're going to continue to improve that offensive line around him. And I think Dunker is a slam dunk, no pun intended, pick to replace Havenstein long term. And at 32, you have the Denver Broncos. I usually like drafting a defensive lineman here to replace John Franklin Myers long term, but I really think the linebacking core needs to be upgraded. I don't think that they for as good as the defense is, I don't really think they get the job done. I think it's subpar at best, and we're going to upgrade it with CJ Allen here as our last pick in the first round. I do think CJ Allen is definitely worth a first round pick. He was flying all over that field for the Bulldogs until he got injured, unfortunately, in the second half against the Longhorns. Allen is an exceptional player. He's not an amazing coverage linebacker. He's good. He's athletic. He's smart. He's got good ball skills. He's got quick reactions, good play recognition. He's not your number one guy. He's not an Arvell Reese. He's not a Sonny Styles when it comes to coverage, but he's a really, really strong pass rusher and he's a really strong run defender as well. In the coverage, he could do it. He could do it. Man coverage, zone coverage, he's good. He's not elite. That's my only gripe with him, but I think this would be a great addition to the Denver Broncos defense here at number 32. I think you get some great value, and that's going to end our first round mock draft after week 11. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There is my 2026 first round mock after week 11 of the 2025 NFL season. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed. Please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.